Hello there, kia ora. It's really common for people to mix up media bias and media not reporting the truth. And there's a few reasons for that, like the fact that we're actually not really all that well trained to spot the difference, or our own biases leading us to see media bias a certain way, or the worldview and lived experiences of the writers, and sometimes deliberate misdirection from media outlets and those behind it. Yesterday, we saw a great example of this in action over a news story involving this woman, Janet Dickson. Last year, Dickson applied for a judicial review on the decision of the Real Estate Agents Authority to deny her an exemption to a legally mandated course so that she could retain her license as a real estate agent after initially refusing to do the course. The 90-minute course, called Te Kakano, is a professional development course which covered a broad overview on Māori culture, customs, language, and te tiriti as it relates to the work that real estate agents do. Now, her argument that the Agents Authority course conflicted with her personal beliefs, that this course should not be mandatory because she does not deal with Māori land, and impinged her freedom of expression by forcing her to do so, well, that wasn't upheld by the courts, which means she's now facing a 5-year ban from being able to work as a licensed estate agent. This whole thing is like blood in the water to Hobson's Pledge, who jumped on the bandwagon and made her their latest pin-up in their fight against quote-unquote woke madness. Because learning to be more culturally aware of some of the backgrounds of the people who may be buying or selling with you is clearly woke. In response to the woke madness on display, Associate Minister for Gun Violence Nicole McKee wrote to the Agents Authority to point out her displeasure at the court's rulings. After her little bitch session about Wellington Water looking for staff who understand the role of Te Tiriti earlier this week, it's clear that for McKee, upholding the treaty means complaining about it every time it gets mentioned and trying to make our founding document just another part of ACT's little culture war. Anyway, two of our mainstream media outlets ran stories on this, the Dickson thing, not the water thing, and they both covered the facts within the stories. But 85% of readers form an opinion based on the headline alone. It's something we call the science post effect, because the headline, it frames the expectation of what the following story is about, and both these outlets took very different approaches with the two headlines that they used, the front page headline and the article headline. Now, Stuff chose to run a front page headline focusing on the reaction of the minister and called it a Māori course. Radio New Zealand ran a front page headline that focused on the court challenge and highlighted the involvement of Hobson's Pledge and called it a Māori values course. Stuff's in-article headline again calls it a Māori course, while RNZ calls it a Māori values course. In the mind of most of the readers, there's a really clear difference caused by not using the term values. A compulsory Māori course to a lot of people reads as being forced to take a course on Te Reo Māori. In the Stuff article, image used this one of Dickson. It's from a post photographer. In the RNZ article, it clearly frames Dickson within the context of Hobson's Pledge. The Stuff article clearly starts the story framing it from the perspective of the minister's views. The RNZ story focuses it on the outcomes of Dickson's own actions. The Stuff story was written by a writer who covers courts and crimes. Radio New Zealand story was written by one of their Māori issues reporters. And these both also have an impact on the perspective of the article because of the perspectives that the writers bring to their writing. Each story had the same details. It covers the same points, but they frame the story differently, which creates different outcomes in different audiences. One highlights the views of a minister under fire for her actions as, reasonable here. The other highlights the connection with an astroturfing group with a history of punching down at anything Māori. As an audience, we need to be aware of the differences in media presentation, and the best way to get a relatively balanced viewpoint is to read multiple stories from multiple outlets whenever you can, and to be aware if they're sharing stories, because you're not going to get much of a difference in viewpoints when that happens. But having a large base of material to work from is the best way to keep yourself informed. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along. We deal with these guys for the rest of the year.